Good morning, Kuhner country. Okay, my friends, very dramatic developments now happening politically in Congress. Obviously, we're going to keep our eyes out what's happening with the war with Iran. But right now, very important what is happening in the Senate with Senate Majority Leader John Thune. And he may now just take the Republican Party and MAGA down. The revenge of the Rhinos. So here is exactly what is taking place. As you know, President Trump recently came out and said that it is now his top legislative priority that the Save America Act be passed. It was passed in the House. It is now languishing in the Senate. The Save America Act, in a nutshell, would require that every American show voter ID when they vote, and that every American has to register. Every American citizen has to register or show proof of citizenship before they register to vote. So, it is a bill designed, a law that would crack down on voter fraud, and in particular, Democrat voter fraud. It wouldn't eliminate fraud, but it would, let's put it this way, it would make it much more difficult, much harder, more challenging for the Democrats to engage in election corruption and in voter and voter fraud. So that's why the Democrats are fighting this tooth and nail. It is political war for the Democrats. John Thune, the Senate Majority Leader, who, remember, is an acolyte of Mitch McConnell. He was by McConnell's side for a long time. He was McConnell's right-hand man. He is a Rhino through and through. Well, now Thune is sticking the knife right into Trump, right into MAGA, and right into the American people's back. He now has done everything in his power to prevent a vote on the SAVE Act. He comes up with every argument under the sun. There aren't the votes to pass it. It'll take too much time to debate it. It's going to crowd out other important priorities like his housing bill or a highway bill or all God knows what other bills. And as President Trump has rightly said, nothing else is more important than passing the SAVE Act. It is arguably the most important law or bill so far this century. It is overwhelmingly popular, not just with Republicans, but with independents, and yes, many Democrats as well, with white voters, black voters, Latino voters. It depends which polls you look at. But between 83 to 88% of the American people, 83 to 88 freaking percent support the SAVE Act. And yet this mamalook, this loser, John Thune, continues to sit on it. And the reason is obvious. Because the Rhinos now want to sabotage and sink the SAVE Act in order to ensure that the Democrats sweep back to power in November and that MAGA is delivered a decisive blow. There's no question now. Now, just so that you understand what's happening behind the scenes, Mitch McConnell, yes, Mitch the Squish, he can barely walk, he can barely talk, he's another Joe Biden, he is seriously cognitively impaired, but as his last swing at Trump, as he now looks to stick it to Trump one last time, he has done everything in his power, McConnell has, to block the Senate, the SAVE Act, from even being introduced or put up for a vote on the Senate floor. Now there is so much pressure on Thune to deliver a vote. Here is now what Thune is about to do. John Thune is reacting now to an immense pressure campaign by President Trump and by, of course, Trump's supporters, as Trump wrote on social media, in Truth Social, For him, the SAVE Act is so important, he says he will veto any other bill. No other bill will be signed by the president until the SAVE Act is passed. In fact, listen now to President Trump. He repeated that not just in writing or on social media, but at a Republican members' issues conference in Florida just a few days ago, telling Thune, telling Republican leadership in the Senate, don't give me anything, any of your pet projects, any of your pork barrel spending, anything that you guys want to pass. I'm vetoing everything until you give me the SAVE Act on my desk for me to sign. Roll cut 1, Mike.
If I could ask the people in this room to go for the gold. We're going for the gold. We're not going for the bronze. We're not going to sign a watered-down version like has been sent up there. Let's go for the gold, and let's just not accept anything else. I'll tell you what, I'm willing to just sort of say I'm not going to sign anything until this is approved. I really am. That's how bad it is.
Okay, notice.
And we're going to have to push the Senate because you have 4 or 5 senators that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 Republican senators. You'll have to explain them to me, but we're not going to get into that.
It's called controlled opposition. That's what it's called. It's called welcome. They're like mass Republicans. Okay, they're there to lose. That's their job. They're paid to lose. They're paid to sabotage MAGA and conservatives and the real Republican Party. Now, Thune is one of the leaders of these people now, this Rhino cabal that is doing everything possible to utterly blow up the SAVE Act. Now, just very quickly, President Trump wants several additions to the SAVE Act. He likes the SAVE Act as is. It's a very good bill, but he wants to make it even better. He wants to end, for the most part, mail-in balloting, with a few exceptions. For the military, if they're deployed overseas, people who are suffering from a disability or an illness, or if you really have to travel during the election period. He said, so for a few exceptions, yes, but for the most part, get rid of universal mail-in balloting. I agree 1,000%. He also says, let's add in, because it's so freaking popular, it's one of those 90-10 issues, and the genital mutilation of transgender kids. In other words, you're not going to chop off the private parts of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14-year-old kids in the name of transgenderism. And so he said, stick those 2 extra provisions in there. For him, that's the gold. Okay? Now, forget the gold. The bronze is too much. Just showing voter ID when you vote and requiring people to show proof of citizenship before you can register to vote. That's too much for John Thune. That's too much for Mitch McConnell. It's too much for Lisa Murkowski. It's too much for Senator John Curtis from Utah. In other words, there's about 3 or 4 of these rhinos that are refusing to support the SAVE Act, and they are refusing, more importantly, to end the filibuster, to break the filibuster, which would then allow a vote, straight up majority vote, to pass it. Listen now to Thune, finally saying, okay, you guys keep pushing me on the SAVE Act. Okay, I'll let you debate it. I'll even guarantee you a vote, but I won't guarantee you the outcome. In other words, that it'll pass. Roll cut 2, Mike.
That debate will happen, but like I said, I can guarantee the debate. I can guarantee a vote. I just can't guarantee an outcome.
Yeah, okay. No, you can guarantee an outcome. You just don't want to guarantee the outcome. End the filibuster. Period. End the filibuster. Okay, you don't want to end because then it's 50 plus 1. They have 50. And JD would be the tie-breaking vote. This thing passes. Okay? But even let that go. Just for a second. Let that go. Okay, you Rhino Judas, you. Just restore what's called the talking filibuster. Now they have what's called the silent filibuster, or it's also commonly known as the zombie filibuster, meaning the Democrats just say, well, we're going to oppose it. That's it. That's all they say. Well, we're going to oppose it. Well, we can't get to 60 votes, so forget it. Don't even bother. In the old days, I mean, like just a couple decades ago, you wanted to filibuster something, you had to quote, talk. You had to get up in the Senate and talk. Talk. And then when you were tired of talking, someone else has to come up and continue talking. Now, they don't even want to use the talking filibuster. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, a couple lines are open if you want to jump on. 617-266-6868 if you want to be part of the show. Okay, my friends, so very quickly. John Thune now obviously has done everything in his power to try to keep the SAVE Act from being voted on. McConnell has been doing everything in his power to block it from even being put on the floor for consideration. Under tremendous pressure from President Trump, who now has said he's going to veto every single bill until he gets the SAVE Act on his desk, Thune now has to do something to seem like he's doing something. So he's got a bit of a challenge ahead of him. He has to pretend like he cares while not exposing his Rhino cabal that have been doing everything to undermine the president and especially to undermine the SAVE Act, while making it seem to voters that they're doing everything in their power to try to get it passed. Okay, so he's been playing this game. And the game now is, okay, well, you guys want to vote on this. You keep pushing and pushing. I'm going to give you your vote, but I can't guarantee the outcome, meaning it's going to go down. You're going to lose. Now, the only reason why they're going to lose on the SAVE Act is because Thune will not end the filibuster. He will not break the filibuster. And by the way, I used to be a big supporter of the filibuster until I realized when you listen to the Democrats, you read the New York Times, you read the Washington Post, you read what opinion makers and Democrat leaders are openly saying. They go, no, we get control of the House and the Senate, and we get control of the presidency. The first thing we're doing is ending the filibuster. So you're not going to need 60 votes in the Senate. All you need is a simple 50+1. And then what are they going to do? The moment they get power, they end the filibuster, and here it comes, just so that you know what's coming. They are going to admit Puerto Rico and Washington, D.C. as two states. That'll give them 4 extra senators. They are going to pack the Supreme Court so they can control the Supreme Court and end the conservative majority. And they're going to abolish the Electoral College to guarantee that someone like Donald Trump never comes to power again. So when I realized that basically now we're in a political arms race, either we blow up the filibuster or they blow up the filibuster. The filibuster is going down. When I realized that, I said, we're crazy. If we don't end it, we're crazy. Now, the SAVE Act, again, I'm not saying it's perfect, far from it, but it would effectively end or significantly curb, to be more accurate, massive Democrat voter fraud. That's why Schumer is losing his mind. That's why he's calling it Jim Crow 2.0. That's why the Democrats are yelling, screaming, hollering that they will do everything and anything to stop the SAVE Act from being passed. Their reaction tells you everything you need to know. They want the cheating to continue. Now, my question to Thune, my question to the Rhinos. Thune is going on about, I don't want to bring back the talking filibuster. Well, why? I mean, it's been done for most of our history. Why can't you bring back the talking filibuster? At least force people to talk and talk and talk, and eventually the Democrats may wear down, and then you can actually, they stop or whatever, they're too tired. You can come in and then go to get around it and force it to a simple vote, and then it passes. No, Thune says it's going to eat up too much time. I don't want a filibuster for a month or 2 months. I'm thinking let them continue to defend voter fraud. Let them defend their position, which is only supported by 10, 12% of the American people. 85 to 88% of Americans support the SAVE Act. Let them be on the wrong side of history. Let them defend it night after night, day after day. It'll politically kill them. Okay, but even let that go. Okay, even let that go. Nothing else matters if you can't protect elections from voter fraud. The Democrats will come back to power. Whatever bills you pass, they will overturn. So you can talk infrastructure, health care, housing, a farm bill, which is what Thune keeps talking about, till the cows come home. You let the Democrats win back power, and they will. They're going to steal this midterm as sure as the sun rises. Then they're going to overturn everything. You're an idiot. You're a mamalouk. Now, when it comes to Thune, I'm sorry. There's only two choices. Take door one or take door two. Either he's a complete spineless rhino. A sleazy, spineless rhino, or he is bought and paid for controlled opposition. That's the only explanation for this. The president wants the SAVE Act. 88% of the public wants the SAVE Act. Almost 100% of Republicans want the SAVE Act. As Trump said in one of his recent Truth Socials, this may be the most popular bill of the last 25 years. And you're telling me you're not willing to do whatever it takes to get this thing passed? Now, either you're spineless and stupid, or you're a Judas. And you're selling the country down the river for your 30 pieces of silver. Now, I don't care anymore if it's door one or door two. Okay, I want to ask all of you really two big questions. Is the SAVE Act now going to fall? Is Thune going to sink the SAVE Act? And number two, is President Trump correct? I think he is, but I want to hear from you. Is the SAVE Act the most important piece of legislation or a bill, most important bill of this century? In other words, election integrity. Is it the most important bill? And if so, why is Thune allowing it to potentially now go down and go down in flames? Now, just very quickly, many of you are saying, well, Jeff, I don't quite understand. If they're going to get 51 votes, let's say 50 Republicans vote for it, there may be a few holdouts. McConnell's probably going to vote against it. Others as well, Lisa Murkowski. Anyway, there's going to be a couple of rhinos. So, and then J.D. Vance cast the tie-breaking vote. That's 51. Yeah, but you need 60 to break a filibuster. In other words, to have it advance, legislation to advance in the Senate. So what Thune is now doing is he's going to put it to a vote knowing it's not going to get anywhere close to 60 votes. So the SAVE Act will be defeated. And then Thune will turn around and say, we can't bring it up again. It went down in flames. And I did what the president asked me to do. You wanted me to put a vote on it. I put a vote on it. I voted on it. I had them have a vote. I'm sorry, Mr. President. The votes just weren't there. That's why he's doing the Weasley. I'll play the cut one more time, and then I'm going to go to the phones. That's why he's doing the Weasley, I can guarantee a vote. I can guarantee that, people will have a chance to have their say. I just can't guarantee the outcome. No, you can guarantee the outcome tomorrow, now. And the filibuster. That's it. It's over. It passes. You don't want to end the filibuster? Then bring back at least the talking filibuster. Let the Democrats have to get up and talk and talk and talk and talk and talk. And then another one has to get up and talk and talk and talk and talk. Eventually, by the way, they get exhausted It may take a few weeks. It may take a month, whatever. But when they do, then procedurally you can move in, cut off debate, and then go to a straight vote. And then all you need is 50 plus 1. But he won't even restore the talking filibuster. So it's obvious. He doesn't want to use muscle. He doesn't want to use all the tools at his disposal to get this thing passed. Because in the end, he doesn't want it to pass. He just wants to pretend like he's trying to get it passed. Here is Thune one more time, and then I'm going to go to the phones. 617-266-6868. Here's John Thune. Now he's doing us a favor by just having a vote on it. Roll cut 2, Mike.
But like I said, I can guarantee the debate. I can guarantee a vote. I just can't guarantee an outcome.
Yeah. Well, you can guarantee it. You just don't want to do it. You piece of you-know-what. What I tell you? What did I tell you? The first socialist, Satan, Lucifer. The first Rhino, Judas. And I'm telling you, Thune, Judas John, is turning into the mother of all traitors. 617-266-6868. Larry in Arkansas. You're going to kick us off, Larry. Thanks for holding and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Larry.
Let's hop into the Wayback Machine and go back about, 22, 23 years. What was the big push back then?
22, 23. We're talking 202, 203. The Iraq War, Larry? The Patriot Act?
How about 20 years ago, Obamacare?
Oh, okay, yeah. Larry, that's more 18 years. Okay, but let's not quibble. Okay, yes, Obamacare. Go ahead, Larry.
All right, so first let's talk. They called Trump arrogant. Name me a bill that has his name in the title.
That's a very good point, Larry.
But I digress. Okay, so that wasn't the most popular thing. In fact, I think less than the majority of the people wanted it. Not one Democrat come out against it. They lockstep. This is going to be the best thing ever, blah, blah, blah. Even though we all pointed out what a disaster it was going to be, they fought tooth and nail. They bribed people. They went everything they could do because Obama said, pass this. There is no loyalty in the Republican Party. You've got, 83% want this to pass? Minorities, overwhelming majority of Latinos and blacks want this to pass, and we can't pass it. Why is that?
Well, Larry, let me ask you, I think we have to seriously open up this discussion, this avenue, anyway, of this discussion. You know, to be fair, there are about 51 Republicans that do want to pass it. Okay, whatever. Whether they from conviction or because they're responding to their constituents, whatever. It doesn't matter. They want to pass it. But Thune doesn't. McConnell doesn't. Murkowski doesn't. I can run down, there's a couple of others. Why? And I'm starting to, honestly think, Tom Tillis. He's retiring from North Carolina, that Rhino. He wants to stick it to Trump on his way out, just like McConnell. Larry, my question now is, I want to follow the money. Follow the money. Because somebody's paying them off. Because to me, there's no other explanation that makes sense. Look, I figured this out about the Massachusetts Republican Party, the Mass GOP. Follow the money. When you follow the money, everything becomes clear. They're paid to lose. They're paid to sabotage their own side. They're paid to shaft their voters in the back. That's what John Thune is doing. That's why Trump is beside himself. He goes, I don't get it. It'll guarantee us a victory in November. Everybody will keep their positions in Congress. It'll keep us with the ability to pass the agenda. And it'll end voter fraud, which is the biggest weapon the Democrats have. And you guys won't pass the SAVE Act, which is so popular. As you pointed out, across the board, blacks, Latinos, whites, men, women, Democrats, independents, Republicans. So I got to ask you, Larry, is John Thune on the take? What say you?
I forget his first name. I believe the last name is Schweitzer. Wrote the book.
Peter Schweitzer.
Thank you, Peter Schweitzer. I appreciate that. I was going with Albert Schweitzer for some reason. Peter Schweitzer wrote the book Hidden Empires. And it's all about the Chinese influence of politicians in America. We already know Mitch McConnell is knee-deep in Chinese money because of his wife. We already know that. And there's a huge scandal 30-plus years ago when Clinton got caught taking...
Yeah, Chinese money. Oh, it was a huge thing. Oh, he's bought and paid for by the communist Chinese. It's so obvious. 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, I want to ask all of you, Kuhner Country, is President Trump right? Is passing the SAVE Act, to be more accurate, the Save America Act, as it's formally known, is it the most important piece of legislation so far of the 21st century? And is he right to say he will veto any other bill that is passed by Congress until they give him the SAVE Act to sign? He says it is that important. He is putting that much pressure now on Thune to deliver. Senate Majority Leader Thune, however, does not want to end the filibuster. He doesn't even want to restore the talking filibuster, meaning he's willing to let the SAVE Act die in the Senate. My question to you, is it time to get rid of John Thune as Senate Majority Leader? Is he going to be another Mitch McConnell 2.0 in which, he'll talk a good game, but on one side of his mouth and on the other side of his mouth, all he will do is sabotage and undermine the president and everything that he wants to accomplish in Congress. 617-266-6868. Dane in Florida. Thanks for holding, Dane, and welcome.
Jeff, you know that I used to live in South Dakota. I now live in Florida. This is the most important bill to pass in America's 250-year history, because if we, the people, don't have a legitimate vote, we don't have a legitimate country. And let me tell you something about Thune, because I know this guy very well since I lived in South Dakota. He's nothing more than, let you say, a rhino, a phony, a deep stater. This guy is not only a deep stater, he's dangerous to the Republican Party in the country because he's such a fraud. He never once attended any of Trump's rallies when he came to South Dakota. Never once, okay? I'll tell you something, Jeff. The people need to light up the phones on John Thune like a Christmas tree and tell him, we're on to you, John. We know what you're doing. You're a fraud. You're a phony, and we're on to you, okay? This is the most important show you've ever had, Jeff, and the people need to listen here. They need to get a hold of everybody. If Trump's people are listening, and I'm sure they are, this guy, Phil, let me tell you something. I know him like the back of my hand. He is no good. He's like a Mitch McConnell, Lindsey Graham, and what's the other guy's name? Put together, a combo. He's a combination of all of them, put in one. This is so important for the American people to put their foot. They have to rise up and say, now is the time we save this country. It's 250th year. This is going on the anniversary. Okay, if this SAVE Act doesn't pass, Jeff, we are finished. We don't have a legitimate country. We don't have. It's finished. I'm telling you, this is so important because everything about America, it was based on the Americans' people legitimate vote, the right to vote, the most sacred honor. What say you, Jeff?
Oh, you're completely. I'm nodding my head. I'm just going up and down. My head is going up and down. I'm like, you're completely right. Look, if we don't have honest, free, fair elections, I don't know what we're doing here. So when Thune, I just can't believe the stuff that comes out of his mouth. He keeps betraying himself every time, revealing himself every time he opens his mouth. He betrays his real intentions. He's like, well, I don't know. We got to pass. By the way, all this stuff is loaded with pork. Okay? And it's special interests. He's a shill for the donor class. The donors own this guy like a $10 streetwalker. So he's going on about, the highway bill loaded with pork, the farm bill loaded with pork, the infrastructure bill loaded with pork. I could just go on and on. So he's like, well, this is going to take up too much time. We got these other bills. They're such big priorities. I'm like, what's more important than preventing voter fraud? What's more important than having safe, secure, honest elections? What is wrong with you? And you're right. This is one of the most important bills in the history of the United States. And Trump understands the stakes, and that's why now, I think where Trump is slightly miscalculated, again, because he's a patriot. And he's just assuming, well, I mean, come on, these Republicans, certainly a Senate majority leader's got to be has got to have a scintilla of patriotism in him. So he says, well, look, I'm not going to sign anything. In other words, look, Thune, you may want your highway bill and your farm bill and your infrastructure bill and all these bills. I'm not going to sign anything until you give me until you give me the SAVE Act. So I'm going to veto everything. And Thune is probably saying, good. In other words, in other words, you think you're paralyzing me from getting everything accomplished. We don't want anything done, so you lose in November. It's very clear to me that now the Rhinos are making their move. They want to set up the midterms where Trump loses, even if it means that they lose their power as well, just to bring down America first and bring down MAGA. Because in their minds, if you can believe it, they think they can put the genie back in the bottle. They really think they can come back and regain control of the Republican Party. They don't see that ship has sailed, that the days of the Republican old guard, of the globalist Rhino neoconservatives, that those days are over. They're over. They're gone. Bye-bye. We're done. So, he thinks, fine. Nothing gets done. You go down in November as long as the SAVE Act doesn't pass. You can see now. This is the thing that's amazing, Dane. There is no difference now between Thune and Schumer on this issue. Schumer's like, this is the hill we're willing to die on. Thune, I'm not ending the filibuster. I'm not going to get the SAVE Act passed. And that's the hill I'm willing to die on. So you're completely right, Dane. Look, Thune has got to go. We got to let him know. And I think Trump now has got to play some real hardball. Okay, with all due respect to the president. He's got to take I know Iran is important. I get it. It's a war. People are dying. It's his presidency's on the line. I get it. But he's going to have to take some time and focus on a strategy. And he's got to publicly now shame Thune. He's got to tell him, listen, you don't pass the SAVE Act. Let me tell you what's going to happen. You're getting primaried in 2028. You're going to lose your Senate seat. And I'm telling you, I'm going to lead a rebellion in the Senate as the president, urging people that you be overthrown, that you lose your position as Senate Majority Leader. You're going to be done. You're going to be toast. Put a fork in him. In other words, you're going to lose your power. You're going to lose the Senate Majority Leadership. You're going to lose your Senate seat. You're going to lose everything. Is that worth it to you? He's got to put the screws into Thune. Because if he doesn't, it's obvious. Thune now is giving the game away. Okay, I'll give you your vote, but it's going to go down. I'm not ending the filibuster no matter what. No matter what. So you can get your 51 votes. By the way, that Judas will probably vote for the SAVE Act. That's the game they play. Once he knows, well, it won't get the 60-vote threshold, so it won't pass. Suddenly he's going to, I voted for it. What are you guys talking to me about? I voted for the SAVE Act. I even put it on the Senate floor to be voted on. I can't guarantee the outcome. And the filibuster. And he knows what Schumer has in store should they win in November. Because Schumer has told him, I'm ending the filibuster. Schumer has told him the Democrats are ending the filibuster. So he knows this. So why not do everything in your power to prevent the Democrats from cheating and stealing elections and coming back to power and God knows destroying the country? I'll tell you why. Because like the Republicans in Massachusetts, pay me and I take a dive. Pay me and I lose. Pay me to lose. That's all. He's a Vichy Republican. That's all it is. I'm paid to be a collaborator. And I guess they're paying him very well, Dane. So I'm so happy you called because I know you're living in Florida now, but you've been in, South Dakota most of your life. And, you're completely right, Dane. The guy is a snake in the grass. Dane, final word to you.
Jeff, let me say something about Thune, one more thing about him. Okay, this guy is such a dumb SOB. I'll tell you, he relies on CNN to get a pulse on America. That is how stupid he is. America, this is your chance. Light up the phones, light up your life, and make this, help President Trump and his Congress, and make sure that this Senate pass, or we don't have a country anymore. That's it.
Dane, drop the mic. 617, thank you for your call. 617-266-6868 is the number. By the way, that's true. You can look it up. Thune was asked, well, how do you know where the pulse of the country is? He goes, I watch CNN. What? That's how out of touch this guy is. And that also is very revealing. Very revealing. 617-266-6868. I don't know. Why don't you call your constituents? Listen to your constituents. And by the way, I just have to say this. He came out, first he said there's going to be no vote. Like there's going to be no vote, no vote, no vote. Because he wants to protect a few rhinos that are actually going to vote against the SAVE Act. So he's trying to protect his rhino cabal. Trump then puts the squeeze on him saying, no. I'm not going to sign any bill. I'm vetoing everything until you give me the SAVE Act. So now he's like, ugh, okay, I got to give him a vote. I mean, what am I going to do? I got to give him a vote. But I just got to make sure it doesn't pass. Right, break the filibuster. So to show you what a little Judas this guy is, he didn't even want the bill to be voted on. And then when he's pressed, when they said, but it's 88% support, your phones are ringing off the hook. It's the most apparently for Republicans, it's the most popular bill ever. Ever. His answer, those are bots. No, quote, those are paid social media influencers and bots, robots. He goes, they're the ones who keep calling my office. They're the ones who are going on X, like I did, for example, yesterday, urging him to break the filibuster, end it, and pass the SAVE Act. He goes, no. These are paid social media influencers, i.e. they're bought off, and they're just robots that are just regurgitating the same thing over and over again. And I'm like, do you really believe this garbage? Nobody paid me to tell you to pass the SAVE Act, genius. It's what your voters are screaming for. So, look, Thune is as bad, maybe even worse than McConnell. Because to give Mitch the squish his due, Mitch understood you got to give conservatives, your voters, a bone once in a while. So if you remember, on judicial appointments, McConnell was excellent. I mean, I'm sorry, I have to give the devil his due. So he understood, the Supreme Court, let me give him that. And then I can do all the business I want with communist China. This guy, he gives us nothing. Nothing. Not even scraps off the table. 617. It's like he's Mitch McConnell, but even more stupid. 617 like a dumber Mitch McConnell. 617-266-6868. Arthur in Chestnut Hill. Thanks for holding, Arthur, and welcome.
He's not stupid. He just doesn't care, and he's as corrupt as the day is long. The fact that McConnell is still in the Senate, he doesn't even know what day it is, but he knows enough that he hates Trump, and China has got him in their pocket too. Sadly, this is the Republican Party. Trump is doing the best to reform it, but it's going to take an awful lot of work. The first call I made to you the first time Trump got elected, if you could find that tape, the first thing out of my mouth was the number one thing that he needs to do now, because he's lucky he got elected, he's got to do something about voter fraud. That goes back to when he first was elected. I made the same statement the second time he got elected. And now we're back there again. There are so many things that they can do to commit voter fraud in this country. They've got it all their way, and it's amazing that they've been able to do this for so long, and still nothing's done about it. People don't realize, and I think they don't stop and think for a minute, that every time there's a voter fraud vote cast, it takes two legitimate votes to cancel out that vote. It takes one to cancel out the vote, and two, the second one is to make the vote that the legitimate voter wanted to make in the first place. That's a big edge for voter fraud. And I'll tell you something. Another thing, we have to clean up the voter rolls. That's something that's needed to be done for a long time. In Michigan, I don't know if you saw this, but the head of the House and she may be a Democrat. They checked some voter rolls. They took dead people off, and when they checked again, some of those dead people got back on the voter rolls. This takes place all over the country, and I pointed out to you a long time ago about the fact that the reason they're able to find blank ballots is because nobody watches the printing companies who print up the ballots. Nobody, they don't go under any scrutiny. They always print overages, and they can print whatever they want. And anybody can print up anything they want and hand it out, because they caught a guy in Minnesota who had a car full of empty ballots that he told he was being paid by Elon Omar, and to make them out and get them mailed in so that she could be elected. All these people and all these constant examples of voter fraud, and it just goes on and on and on, between mail-in ballots, between harvesting of votes that show up and say, "Oh, Jesus, we lost by 350. I just found 500." I mean, what do we do about it? The people of this country, if it's so important to 85% of the people in this country, they ought to be on the phones, and not just on the phones, okay? They ought to be out there protesting. It's about time the right people protested and marched. This is going to be our only chance, I think. I think that we're not going to get another chance. In Georgia, Marjorie Taylor Greene's seat, Trump carried that district by 29 points, and she carried it huge. The Democrat got the most votes in that special election yesterday, and a lot of Democrats have been winning these runoffs. So as bad as it may seem for the Democrats, they're somehow finding ways to win, no matter how bad things are pointed out that they're doing. So where is exactly? By the way, where's the Republican National Committee? Where are they? What are they doing about this? Why aren't messages put out there? And by the way, Thune and Grassley, they've blue slipped and held up a bunch of the Trump appointees. It's over a year later. It's amazing to me what the Thune gets away with. And I told you when they first had the ballot, They were fighting, should it be secret or non-secret? I said, God forbid it's secret, and then that's how Thune got elected. Who knows how honest that was, because nobody says who they voted for. And if the people of this country don't fight now, okay, if they don't fight up now, Jeff, they're not going to get another chance. I mean, we've got so many enemies in the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party is the party, the anti-U.S. party. And if this was 1776, they'd all be lined up and thrown out of the country.
Arthur, look, I got to tell you, as usual, you hit the nail on the head. But even more than that, the Democrats themselves are saying openly, that they'll never allow another Trump to come to power again. And what they mean by that is J.D. Vance. In other words, anybody who's MAGA or America First or a populist or who's going to challenge the swamp, really challenge the swamp, they said, we made a mistake and we're never going to make that mistake again. And so you're completely right. You know, this may be our last chance, probably is our last chance. They come back to power in November. It's going to set the stage for them to try to steal the election in 2028. And once they do that, they're going to end the filibuster themselves. And then they will guarantee a Democratic majority. They've already said it. So that's why I'm looking at someone like Thune, and I'm like, are you that stupid or are you that corrupt? And I think your point is, no, Jeff, he's just that corrupt. He's not a stupid man. He just doesn't give a damn. He's Judas. I don't care. Just line my pockets. I don't care. And that's why he's got to go. I'm sorry. I agree with a lot of people now in Kuhner country who were texting me and messaging me and emailing me saying, Jeff, the question is no longer can we pass the SAVE Act. The question now is, should John Thune remain a Senate Majority Leader? 617-266-6868 is the number. Okay, Wednesday, 7:20-ish. You know what that means. Truth or troll? Take it away, Mike.
And now, America's favorite game show, where you get to decide on the Kuhner Report. This is Truth or Troll.
Today's entry for Truth or Troll comes from a House Foreign Affairs Committee hearing entitled Advancing National Security Through Public Diplomacy. During the hearing, Representative Brian Mast asked State Department Undersecretary for Public Diplomacy about Biden-era grants for DEI programs around the world, like trying to make maps more gay. Yes, maps.
Can you tell me what is queering the map?
So I think we were trying to make the maps more gay.
Literally?
How
do you make a map more gay?
I mean, especially
or
with
gay
AI,
at all?
Since the age of cartography, we've had pretty good maps, but maybe they weren't gay enough. So I know also, I took critical theory in college. I think sometimes people use queer as a verb. I do understand that the maps that we were trying to make gay were, I think, of Czechia and Slovakia. So maybe those countries asked for it. I doubt it, but I don't know.
We do have real things to work on in Congress, like what's going on with the imminent threat of Iran, and it is embarrassing that we have to talk about the fact that things like this were funded.
Pretty crazy, isn't it? So essentially here, is that true, or was this just a grant to almost steal money and for fraud? And was it just a whole troll?
Mike, all kidding aside, explain this to me, Mike. How do you make a map gay or more gay? Like, I'm serious. Like what? You paint rainbow flags on it? You color it pink? Like, no, really, how do you make it? Seriously, how do you make a map gay?
I don't even think I can answer that. I don't work in the government, so I wouldn't know. I think that's above my pay grade, it seems.
Mike, have you ever seen a gay map?
Not that I know of.
No, me neither. Okay, no, I think they're telling the truth. I don't think there's any trolling here. I think they're telling the truth. Now, you're right that there may be a scam involved, steal more money under the guise of DEI and being woke, but that's where our money is going. How many, Mike, do you know how many millions and millions of our taxpayer dollars went for this?
Probably a lot, I would assume.
A lot. Yeah. I think we're looking at hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to make maps gay. Ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. No, I think it's, truth or troll. I think it's truth. But that's me. I want to hear from you. The State Department now has admitted under oath that they are turning out maps of Europe and other parts of the world, and they're making these maps gay or more gay. Do you think it's A, the truth, or B, they're trolling? I think it's truth, but that's me. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhner. You can also vote via X. Oh, was I active on X last night? Holy shamoly. Anyway, my handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report, Kuhn as in national ER. Susie in the Peach State, Georgia. Thanks for holding, Susie, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff.
Hi,
Good
Susan.
morning to all the patriots of Kuhner country. It's going to be a little hard to follow that, but I'm going to give it a shot. So here's the long and short of it. We are a nation for 250 years. You're going to be hard-pressed to find another nation in the world that has the strongest constitution that will compete with ours for 250 years. Cut and dry. There has been tyranny, there has been treason, there has been corruption in this nation for more than 250 years. Our forefathers and foremothers recognized it. They put an end to it. We, the people, are entitled to the SAVE Act. We, the people, are entitled to clean elections. We, the people, need to stand up, and we, the people, need to get rid of the Thunes of the nation, the Schumers of the nation, the AOCs of the nation, the Ilhan Omar. Ilhan Omar should be denaturalized, deported, and sent back to her native Somalia with nothing but the clothes on her back. There is so much corruption in this nation, but it's always been here. It's always been identified, and it will always be stamped out. But we, the people, have to stand together, united, in one nation to get the job done. This can be done. It's been done before. It can be done again. Benjamin Franklin said, we are giving them a tremendous gift. Let's see how long they can hold it. Well, we've held it for 250 years. How about if we hold it another 250 years? Let's start getting rid of the treasonous corruption in this nation.
Well, Susie, very powerful, very eloquent, very articulate, extremely well said. Look, that was Trump's mandate, both in his first term and now in his second term, right? That's what, to drain the swamp, which is a colorful way of saying what you're saying. Get rid of the corruption, clean up the corruption once and for all. And what we're seeing is the corruption is as wide, as rampant, as pervasive than ever. Both the Democrats, obviously, and the Republican establishment. And I think what we're going to have to do is I think MAGA is going to have to say with one voice, 78 million of us, we're all going to leave the Republican Party. If you don't pass the SAVE Act, we're leaving the Republican Party, period. That's it. We're gone. Is it worth it? So you tell me, John Thune, is it worth it? And look, I'm sorry, we're going to have to hold a proverbial political knife to their neck, to their throat, and say, no, you're going to lose. Your whole party is going to come crashing down unless you pass the SAVE Act. Okay, just very quickly, Lisa on Messenger made a very good point about John Thune. On top of everything else, and Trump has openly complained about this, Thune will not allow any of Trump's recess appointments to go through. He keeps blocking Trump's recess appointments. You want to know, I'm not defending Pam Bondi. Obviously, you know my feelings about Pam Bondi and her Department of Justice. But to be fair to her, one of the reasons why you're not seeing so many arrests and indictments and prosecutions is they can't get any U.S. attorneys confirmed. They got to get at least 35, 40, 50 more U.S. attorneys. And Thune won't move them through the Senate. A lot of Trump's judicial appointments, he won't move them through the Senate. A lot of his key political appointments, diplomatic appointments, he won't move them through the Senate. And, Trump once openly said, this was maybe a couple of months ago, maybe 3-4 months ago, where he just, was talking and he said, look, I understand why the Democrats block me. I don't understand why my own leadership in the Senate is blocking me on my own appointments. And I think the reason is obvious. They don't want Trump to succeed. Or to be more accurate, they don't want his MAGA America First agenda to succeed. They want the swamp to remain the swamp and the uni-party to remain in power. Now, very quickly, 617-266-6868 is the number. One of the things that's incredible, really, it's changed over the last 5-6 years. It's mind-boggling. Is how now, remember 5-6 years ago, the Democrats, no, cheat. We don't cheat. Voter fraud. You're an election denier. No, we have the cleanest elections ever. No country has cleaner elections than we do. Now, 5-6 years later, with all the evidence that's coming out over and over and over and over, notice now, they're practically admitting, we cheat. Yeah, without the illegals, we're done. Without dead people on the voter rolls, we're finished. No, hey, without voter fraud, oh my God, we would never be able to control Congress or win a presidential election. So now they're practically admitting that they rely on this election corruption machine and vote rigging and voter fraud. Now, just quickly, listen now to Schumer. Schumer, at a press conference, says, no. We will die if we have to, but we will not allow the SAVE Act to be passed. Now, remember, one of the key requirements of the SAVE Act, on top of every person having to show ID when they vote, you have to register. Before you register to vote, you have to show proof of citizenship. But also, it requires every state to purge and clean the voting rolls. Purge them of dead people, purge them of non-citizens, purge them of illegals. That's it. That's the ball game. It's over. And the Democrats know it. Listen now to Schumer. Roll cut 3, Mike.
It's about voter registration. It allows ICE to kick tens of billions of people off the rolls, and they don't tell them until Election Day, and you show up and you say, you're not registered anymore, you're not registered here, you're not on the rolls. And they say, I didn't know that. This is a bill that destroys the country, and it is not about showing ID when you show up to vote. It's about the voter registration rolls, destroying them, purging them, not letting people know, and taking the rights in a algorithm put together by ICE, put together by Doge and Musk. It's an outrage, and that's why so many people don't want to pass it.
Yeah, right. The ICE stuff, Doge, Musk is a complete lie, but let that go, okay? Look, he's basically saying it. It's going to purge the voting rolls. We can't have that. Once you purge the voting rolls, he's even saying it. Well, ICE, he's even saying it. The illegals, you can't vote. Dead people, you can't vote. Non-citizens, you can't vote. Tens and tens of millions. We're done. We're finished. So, knowing this, one of the things to me that is very unfortunate about the war with Iran right now is that people obviously, look, Americans are dying. We're bombing another country. They're now launching counterattacks. We're involved in a major war. This could even, come back and hurt us here in the homeland. Tensions are running very high. So everything else is now being marginalized or off the news radar, off the news cycle, and the Iran war is taking up all the oxygen in the room. And so people are no longer focused on the SAVE Act, for example, and what's happening now in the Senate. And so a lot of people are just focused on the war, which I get, but now Thune is making his move to try to sink it. And so my question to you, it is the Kuhner Country poll question of the day, sponsored by Mario's. Mario's Quality Roofing, Siding, and Windows. What do you think is more important for the country? What is more important for the United States of America? For you, what is a higher priority? A, the Iran war. B, passing the SAVE Act. What do you think is more important for the country? And let me ask all of you, what's more important for you? A, the Iran war, and hopefully, winning the Iran war. Or B, passing the SAVE Act. You can vote on our webpage, wrko.com/Kuhner, wrko.com/Kuhner, Kuhn as in national ER. You can also vote via X. My handle there, all one word, at the Kuhner Report, at the Kuhner Report. Kuhner. What is more important to the interests of the country and for you? The Iran war or the SAVE Act? Now, look, I don't vote in these polls. As you know, I leave that up to you, Kuhner Country, and I'd love for as many of you to participate as possible. Obviously, the Iran war, molto importante for so many reasons, for Trump's presidency, for the Middle East, for the region, for the world. Look, this war is going to have massive implications no matter what happens. I gotta go with B. I gotta go with the SAVE Act. Knowing how important the Iran war is, and it's extremely important, I don't know for a constitutional republic what can possibly be more important than having safe, honest, fair, legitimate elections. You cannot have a democracy, you cannot have a constitutional republic unless you have honest elections. Okay, just super quick. I want to read this text from 603. I could not agree more. I think summed up, frankly, my position succinctly and brilliantly. By the way, you can text the Kuhner Man, 70470, 70470, 603. Jeff, the SAVE Act is more important because wars have an end. Military conflicts come to conclusions in the short term. On the other hand, elections steer the very direction and fate and destiny of our country, both nationally and internationally. And once something is put into legislation like the SAVE Act, it is generally here to stay. Brilliant. To me, again, the Iran war, obviously immensely important. But if I'm to vote in that poll, I would say, well, no, the SAVE Act is, to me, even a higher priority. Why? Because if the Democrats can keep stealing elections, they can destroy our country. I mean, let's be very clear. The only way the United States can be destroyed is not from an external enemy. Say Iran gets the nuke, just as an example. We can drop 100, 200, 300 nukes on Iran. We could wipe them off the face of the earth. The only way America falls is from within. And the Democrats are looking to destroy us from within. That's why we have to make sure they cannot cheat and steal elections. Agree, disagree, 617-266-6868. Lou in Rhode Island. Thanks for holding, Lou, and welcome.
Yeah, good morning, Jeff.
Hi, Lou.
Let me put it this way. Without the SAVE Act, we might as well, without the SAVE Act, let me put it really quickly. Iran, Qatar, the Muslim Brotherhood would win. Anyway, they'd win because the Democrats would flood the country with Muslim immigrants. We'd end up like Britain. We'd end up like Australia. We'd have the Green Woke Alliance due to illegal voting would be in power in this country. We'd have more than one Mandami. We'd be loaded with Mandamis. And that's why the SAVE Act is necessary to maintain the republic and maintain the rights of citizens. And it's not about, these guys got to understand it's not about Trump. It's about saving America for sure. And you realize that if the Democrats do get control, not only will we be flooded with Muslim immigrants, we probably get many Chinese immigrants. Plus, as Clinton did back in the 1990s, all these wonderful weapons systems will end up in Chinese hands. They'll just, they'll just allow them to take the patents or whatever of these things. They'll allow them to steal them, just like happened in the 1990s. And the whole country will just basically be under control of the woke Green Alliance, and it'll be absolutely terrible in this country. So that's why the SAVE Act is more important, right, in the long term, over the Iran war, which is right now in the short term. And this is the basic right of citizens in this country, Jeff. I mean, this is the basic right to vote in an election. This is the most important thing that we do is vote in our elections. And we just can't. We can't. I don't know. I don't understand what Thune is doing. I think what Trump needs to do with Thune is to pound at him with a hammer of all the 80-20 things. I mean, put all the 80-20 bills out there to vote. All the things that America agrees with. I mean, even the thing you said at the beginning of the show, where you're talking about transitioning kids. I mean, these kids end up now they have a lot of lawsuits from the transition kids who said they were misled. They weren't told what was going to be the end result. They weren't given any warnings, and they're making lawsuits. They'll make the whole pharmaceutical industry and they'll make the whole medical community immune from lawsuits from these people who are complaining about transitioning. And also, it's just like the thing in your truth or troll. That was truth. That was absolutely truth. We're going to give the country over to illegal votes to people who want to make gay maps of the world. This is so how Thune has to be thrown in Thune's face. What the consequences are of this thing. He's got to be pounded with this. And by the way, where are these wonderful senators I see at these hearings? This John Kennedy, he always likes to run his mouth. How come he's not putting pressure on Thune? Or Hawley, who's always talking at these hearings. Why aren't they putting any pressure on Thune? Some of these guys got to get out there and start going after him too. I mean, some of these Republican senators, they think they're like this little club and they can't criticize each other. They ought to really go after him. Same thing with the Republicans in the House. They got to start pounding Thune about this and shaming him. That's the only thing that's going to probably make him do a real vote and get this thing passed.
I love it.
Him and pound.
Oh, Lou, I love it. No, I love it. You're dead on. It's like Jim Jordan, right? It's the same thing. He rolls up his sleeves and he's flopping his mouth and nothing ever gets done. Well, I agree with you. You got all these prima donnas who love to showboat and grandstand. They all got big mouths. Well, now it's time, don't just talk the talk. You got to walk the walk. And they should be calling out Thune, holding press conference after press conference, saying the Senate Majority Leader is betraying Trump, betraying, more importantly, the American people, betraying our republic, betraying our Constitution, betraying our voters. And we're not going to stand for it. And if he will not end the filibuster and get the SAVE Act passed, he's got to go, period. We're going to force a vote of non-confidence in the Senate Majority Leadership. That's it. I'm sorry. Well, Jeff, if it fails, you'll never get another favor from the Senate Majority Leader. You'll never get a perk. You'll never get your, whatever, something that's important to you. The Senate, the majority leadership won't give it high priority. He's going to punish you politically. Who cares? Look, in a way, it all comes down to this. I mean, of all people, President Trump knows what stolen elections leads to. He knows. They robbed him blind in 2020. They stole it from underneath all of our noses. Now, I want to ask all of you, in all seriousness, we don't stop this voter fraud, and this time the Democrats say they're not going to miss. Okay? In the midterm elections, they're not going to miss. You're going to see an election corruption a voter fraud machine like you've never seen before, because they want to stop Trump now at all costs. Do we want Joe Biden? Basically, Bidenism. It could be a different person, but it's basically going to be Joe Biden's policies. 4 years, and then another 4, and then another 4, and then another 4. In other words, ad infinitum. The country can't survive. No country can survive. And that's what they're telling us they're going to do. So I'm sorry, this is the political hill to die on. If you're not willing to die on this hill, what hill are you willing to die on? So I'm sorry now. To every Republican senator, you're a fraud. You're a big mouth fraud. You're a phony. Unless you come out in open opposition to Thune and hold the proverbial political gun to his head. Either you get this thing passed by hook or by crook. I don't care. Talking filibuster, we can spend months, eventually we'll get it done, or you end the filibuster. Either way, I don't care. This thing is going to be on Trump's desk unless they're willing to come out openly and stick their necks out and put their reputations and careers on the line. I'm sorry, you're all talking, no action. And I think the president now has got to ratchet up the pressure. He's got to do an Operation Epic Fury domestically on Thune. Say, listen, I want you to know something. Your political career is over. It's over. You're done. We're going to primary you. I'm calling for a revolt against you and as a Senate Majority Leader. I'm calling on all Republicans now to come out against you. He's got to go nuclear on this guy. Now, because this is the trap. The trap now is he didn't want the vote. He kept blocking the vote. Him and McConnell. Block. Okay, now he's going to hold the vote. But he knows it doesn't get 60 votes. He knows that. And he's not willing to break the filibuster. So, whatever, it gets 51 votes, 52 votes, whatever it may be. That's not enough. It doesn't pass. And then it goes down. And then Thune will turn around and say, well, it went down. That's it. It's done. It's over. It doesn't have the votes. Next. Move on to something else. And then that's it. We'll never get another chance to pass the SAVE Act again. So Trump has got to say, no, I'm sorry. This is my red line. You cross it at your peril. This thing will be law. Now, John, we can do this, Judas John, we can do this the easy way, or we can do it the hard way. But it's going to get done. He's got to devote all of his political energy now on getting the SAVE Act passed. Now, my fear, and honestly, let me just put my cards on the table. This was one of the reasons why I said, oh no, about the Iran war. Is because I said the Rhinos are going to use it as a smokescreen, as an excuse. All of the attention on Iran, all of the focus on Iran. And they're going to do this almost in the dead of night, where they're going to kill the SAVE Act or sink it. And the country is going to be so distracted, and of course I understand, and conservatives, MAGA, even the president to a large extent, because look, this is a war. It's a fight to the finish. So he can't give it the attention, the energy, the time that it needs. And that's why now Thune has decided, okay, let's do it now. Why? The timing is everything. Why don't you wait another week or two? I mean, what the hell? You were blocking it for so long. What's the rush now? Because in a week or two, when the war is over, then everybody will be focused again on domestic issues and on the SAVE Act. So now, while everybody's distracted under the cover of war, the fog of war, as they call it, now put it up for a vote and let it go down. Let it go down. Trump has to devote everything he has right here, right now, and cut Thune off at the pass before it's too late. Just my opinion. 617-266-6868 is the number. Agree, disagree. Mags in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Mags, and welcome.
Jeff, thanks for having me. God bless you and Sandy and Mike for everything that you do. I appreciate you. Everything that you just said, I agree with 100%. I'm done with Thune. The SAVE Act has got to pass. Why every single American in this country isn't on board with this is scary, to be honest with you, Jeff. I'm sick of the criminal Schumer, pushing back because he needs his illegals to get his votes. I'm sick of it. Illegals shouldn't be voting by the rules of the Constitution. I don't understand how they have gotten away with this all these years and how they got away with cheating to begin with. But we all know that's what they've done. That's how Michelle Wu has no competition, and Maura Healey is governor of Massachusetts. Okay, and Mandani is now, rules New York. It's disgusting. If we don't stop this now, we might as well put our heads between our legs and kiss our butts goodbye, honestly. And as far as the war, it was something that needed to be done for over 45 years. I'm 63 years old. Iran needed to be taken down, but it's unfortunate that it looks as though another Khomeini is going to be in charge, which to me absolutely is disgusting and disgraceful. And I wish that we had maybe done something a little bit differently. But as I'm going to say, like I always do, Jeff, if Trump would get on once a month, because, again, the media is not our friend. They hate us. And they absolutely are getting paid to hate this country. So if we could get Trump on once a month and make them show him on live on TV, because, yes, he does show everybody during the day, but people work. Not everybody gets to watch what his agenda is. We need to show America and these stupid people that only watch CNN, ABC, CBS, even Fox. I mean, Fox Boston is also a terrible news station. How else are we going to fix this? Because the media is our biggest problem.
Well, Mags, I think you've given Trump the solution, and I hope he takes it. And I know people privately close to him have been urging him. I've been urging him. This audience has been urging him. He's got to he's got to take a page out of FDR's playbook. Those the famous fireside chats. Now that was done by radio. I understand it was a different age, a different time. Communications was different then. But go on TV. If you don't want to go on TV, make a video. Post it on social media. It'll go everywhere. Believe me. And, it doesn't have to be super long, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And once a week, even twice a week. And go just bypass the media and say, no, you're being lied to. Here's the truth. No, they're misrepresenting what I'm saying. Here's what I'm really trying to do or trying to accomplish. Or no, that's all misinformation and disinformation. Let me tell you what is really going on with my administration on this issue or that issue or whatever. Iran, inflation, the economy, deportations, voter fraud, whatever the issue is. I completely agree with you because they're losing the messaging war. On Iran, they're losing the messaging war. The media is just pounding them and pounding them and pounding them. And I'm going to get to this a little bit later. It doesn't help that he's put out Lindsey Graham as his surrogate on this. Lindsey Graham is killing Trump right now in terms of the messaging and the public relations. Okay, but I don't want to get too off track. So you're right. Look, this is it. You know, we have a chance to have honest, clean elections. Without honest, clean elections, it's going to be very hard for us to win in the future. It took maximum turnout for us to win the last election. We flooded, we swamped the polls. And even then, sure, Trump won. But how the hell did Kamala Harris get 75, 76 million votes? No way she got 75, 76 million votes. So what I'm saying is we have to make it as difficult as possible for the Democrats to cheat. And that's what this bill does. That's why they're freaking out over the SAVE Act. And by the way, the argument they can't refute, they just can't. Every country in the world has voter ID. Every country in the world. Every country in the world says you have to show proof of citizenship before you can vote. Most countries in the world clean up their voting rolls, purge their voting rolls. So, according to the Democrats, not only do 85 to 88% of Americans oppose them on this issue, but the world opposes them. So the question I have for Schumer and their lapdogs in the media is, so what? Is the whole world now Jim Crow? Is the whole world now apartheid? Is the whole world now this white supremacist, racist civilization? They have voter ID, I swear to you, in Somalia. In Somalia. By the way, in South Africa, they have voter ID. So what, they brought back apartheid now, according to these idiots? I mean, you could go on and on and on and on. I mean, their arguments are laughable. So, no, look, I'm sorry. The Republicans told us for how many years? Well, we have the House, but we need the Senate. You want something done? We need the Senate. Okay, so we gave them the House, and then we gave them the Senate. No, we got to have the House and the Senate and the White House. Okay, so now you've got the House, the Senate, and the White House. Then they turn around and say, but we need the Supreme Court. Okay, you gave them the House, the Senate, the White House, and the Supreme Court, because the Supreme Court, the 5 conservative justices, will definitely uphold the SAVE Act. What's your excuse now? Well, we don't want to end the filibuster. Well, you're an idiot, because the Democrats are going to end it in November if they win. So either you end it or they end it. We might as well end it. So, no, we gave them the House, we gave them the Senate, we gave them a congressional majority, we have the White House, and we have the Supreme Court. Pass the damn SAVE Act. No more excuses. And if Thune doesn't want to do it, if Judas John doesn't want to do it, no problem. Get rid of him, replace him, and get somebody who will. Like, that's it. We're done. Like, I'm sorry. How is it we keep voting for change and we keep getting the same damn thing over and over again? So, no, you're going to do your job. You're Senate Majority Leader. I'll tell you this. Schumer wants to pack the Supreme Court if he becomes Senate Majority Leader. He'll get it done. He wants to abolish the Electoral College. He'll get it done. He wants to add Puerto Rico and D.C. estates. He'll get it done. He wants to impeach Donald Trump. He'll get it done. Like, say what you want about the Democrats. Oh, they move heaven and earth. If they got to blow up the filibuster, they blow it up. If they got to bring back the talking filibuster, it comes back. Whatever they need to do, they do it. Our side, look at them. Look at them. Pathetic. I don't know, honestly, who's a bigger loser, Thune or McConnell. I look at them and I'm like, I've never seen 2 bigger losers than you. You're bought and paid for, and you're so stupid, you don't even realize that the whole country knows you're bought and paid for. You can't even hide the fact that you're bought and paid for. 617-266-6868. Andy in Milford. Thanks for holding, Andy, and welcome.
Hey, good morning, Jeff.
Andy.
Hey, Jeff, very quickly before I begin, and I've been meaning to say this, we're overdue for getting together and have a rally. It's time for Kuhner country to get together and make some noise in Massachusetts.
Andy, I think we're gonna have a huge rally against Maura Healey for the elections. We'll see what happens. We can rally about so many things now. I mean, really, it could be a rally a day. Never mind rally a week. But Healey's got to go. And I'm going to talk about this in greater detail and probably tomorrow or after tomorrow, whenever there's a bit of a let up in the Iran war or this SAVE Act. But what she's doing, the latest stuff now coming out of her office, it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable. And so she has to be defeated in November, period, full stop. But anyway, Andy, please, I didn't want to interrupt you. Go ahead.
Jeff, okay, you talked about the SAVE Act, and this actually feeds perfectly into the topic I was going to bring up, and that is by either staying home, or some are even saying that, we're going to get back at the Republicans for voting Democrat, or even leaving the Republican Party. I would submit, Jeff, that's exactly what these Rhinos want, is for us to pick up our ball and go home. As a matter of fact, I would be willing to bet $1 that that's probably part of John Thune's calculus, that if just get us enough disgusted so we pick up the ball and go home. Now, Jeff, the nomination processes and primaries that are going on all over the country, Jeff, that's where we need to fight back. And I believe there are enough votes to get Ken Paxton nominated in the Texas runoff that's going to be happening in May. And also, Jeff, I looked in a little bit to Senator Lindsey Graham's primary opponent, John Dans. There was a real good sit-down interview that he did for Fox News, Brett Baer. It happened like August 28, 2025. I actually found it on Lycaton, and I sent it to you on Messenger Sunday night. But that might be a tool that our listeners could use to get a good measure of the man. And I even saw one video clip where Dan comes right out and says, Lindsey Graham will get us into World War III. So he's saying the quiet part out loud. I would submit this, Jeff. If our forces could send John Cornyn packing in May when that Texas runoff comes out, and if we could send Senator Lindsey Graham packing when the South Carolina primary happens on June 9th, that's when it happens. So we got time. If we could do that, that's going to send President Trump a message that we've got power and organization to take care of business on our own, on the ground. So maybe that'll give President Trump the backbone to say, I've had it with these Rhinos. I don't want them anywhere near me, number one. And number two, that will be a huge step towards us taking back the Republican Party. And I would just admit, on the other side of the football, this is exactly what the radical left has been doing. And Democratic Socialist of America is very organized in the Democratic primaries. And, I mean, this is how they've been rolling. And
Andy, you're dead on. I got to say, you're absolutely dead on. look, to give the hard left, the radical left their due, I mean, they got a great voter turnout operation, and they've got a ferocious political machine within the Democratic Party, and they primary every establishment Democrat, every single one, and they beat them. One after another, after another, after another. And they go after everybody. Now they're holding AOC like a sword over Schumer's head. That's why Schumer has shut down the DHS department. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, Andy, about how the Democrats play to win. Look at them. In the middle of a war, they have shut down the Department of Homeland Security to the point TSA agents are not being paid. Many of them have quit. And you've got lines at airports 3, 4, 5 hours long. Okay, Andy in Milford, obviously a very good caller, made the point we've got a primary Cornyn, and we have a chance now to do that in Texas. Ken Paxton is an excellent pro-Trump MAGA candidate. He can easily beat him in this runoff. Cornyn is John Thune's right-hand man. So you knock off Cornyn, you've basically cut off his right arm, Thune's right arm, politically. Lindsey Graham, we can primary him. He's John Thune's left arm. So you cut off his right arm, you cut off his left arm, and Thune is now going to really feel it. He's going to be in trouble, and he knows he's in trouble. Now, speaking of Lindsey Graham, and this, trust me, this gets back to the SAVE Act. He's in hot water now. He's been unhinged for a long time. He is a war pig. I'm sorry, he's a warmonger. He's called for war against, well, pretty much every country in the world. He wants a war with Russia. He's been itching for this war with Iran. He's actually calling for war with Lebanon. He wants us at war now with Lebanon. He's talking now about, he supported obviously Venezuela. He wants to knock off the regime in Cuba. Eventually he wants us to take on Turkey and Qatar. In other words, he wants us fighting all over the world. It will be endless war. But more than that, he believes that Trump is not prosecuting the war in Iran aggressively enough. Why? Because we haven't put boots on the ground. Lindsey wants boots and big boots on the ground. I want you to listen to him now. He was on with Sean Hannity, and he was blasting Spain, which I agree with, for not giving us their bases. But listen to what it leads up to. Roll cut 7, a mic.
To our allies, step up, get our air bases out of Spain. They're not reliable. Move all those airplanes to a country that would let us use them when we're threatened by a regime like Iran. To our friends in Spain, man, you have lost your way. I don't want to do business with you anymore. I want our air bases out of Spain into a country that will let us use them. To our Arab friends, I've tried to help you construct a new Mideast. You need to up your game here. I can't go to South Carolina and say we're fighting and you won't publicly fight. What you're doing behind the scenes, that has to stop. The double dealing of the Arab world when it comes to this stuff needs to end.
So he's calling out Saudi Arabia. He's calling out Qatar. Actually, he eventually wants to bomb Qatar, but let that go. He's calling out Qatar, Kuwait, United Arab Emirates, Bahrain, saying, no. You guys need now to send in your forces. So he wants to expand the war. He wants to regionalize the war. Okay? So, but now, hold on. Here it comes. But what about our sons and daughters? Listen to him say, I go back to South Carolina and I say, how can I call for our sons and daughters to go fight and die in Iran if the Saudis won't fight and die in Iran? Roll cut 7A, Mike.
I go back to South Carolina. I'm asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast. What I want you to do in the Mideast, to our friends in Saudi Arabia and other places, step forward and say, this is my fight too. I join America. I'm publicly involved in bringing this regime down. If you don't, you're making a great mistake and you're going to cut off the ability to have a better relationship with the United States. I say this as a friend.
Okay. I'm going back to South Carolina. That first part. And asking them to send their sons and daughters over to the Mideast. You're asking for our sons and daughters to die in Iran. Congresswoman Nancy Mace from South Carolina, maybe the next governor of South Carolina, wrote this on X. She played this cut, and she wrote, "What in the world would possess anyone to say this?" Okay, that's what she wrote on X. She then later went on X and said, quote, "I do not want to send South Carolina's sons and daughters into war with Iran." Who does? Who does? Or anyone's sons and daughters. I don't care. Massachusetts' sons and daughters. I don't care. Florida's sons and daughters. South Dakota's sons and daughters. Pick your state. Now, Congresswoman Anna Paulina Luna, staunch MAGA conservative, Florida. She went right after him, saying, whoa, 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 whoa. He always wants to send our sons and daughters to fight and die in endless wars around the world. Now in Iran, how come he's never the first to volunteer? And here's what she wrote, quote, on X, "There are some in the Senate that advocate for war everywhere. Lindsey Graham is one of them. He does not tell the president what to do, nor does he control Congress. I have spoken with the administration a number of times, as well as other members of Congress over the last week or so, and nothing has changed regarding boots on the ground. No boots on the ground." Now, what I'm saying is this. It is now Republican after Republican after Republican who is now coming out saying this guy is mentally not right in the head. He's unhinged. There's something wrong with him. The bloodlust, the desire to always fight a war and another war and another war. And that look in his face at the prospect of sending our sons and daughters and to fight and die in wars all over the world. Now, my point is just this. How come Lindsey Graham doesn't fight this hard for the SAVE Act? I mean, we're talking about ending voter fraud and preserving our republic, preserving our democracy, and preserving clean, honest elections. How come you don't fight as hard for the SAVE Act as you do for every war around the world? Notice, then it's not, let's send our sons and daughters to the Senate. Let's get this thing done no matter what. Fight them on the beaches, fight them on the hills, fight them on the streets, fight them everywhere. Notice, when it comes to the SAVE Act, he's quiet. He says nothing. He says nothing. That's the problem now with the Rhinos, the globalists, and the neoconservatives. All they want is endless war. But when it comes to protecting our homeland, our republic, our vote. Okay, Dr. Grace is warming up in the bullpen. She'll be on in exactly 10 minutes. Sheldon in Scituate. Thanks for holding, Sheldon, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. I always forget to say this. You have the best bumper music in the industry. It's awesome.
That's Mike. That's all Mike, Sheldon.
Well, I think there's messages in there sometimes when it comes in. You can know what the song's about, and I think he's saying things. Anyway, what I called to say was talk about term limits, but the Chuck Schumer thing where he said we would purge the rolls, if we have the SAVE Act and I walk in with a valid ID and I've accidentally been purged, they'll be able to check and say, oh, you're right, Sheldon, we need to put you back on the rolls, and I'll be able to vote.
Oh, you're dead on. No, I mean, it's just fear-mongering.
Yep, exactly.
It's just pure fear-mongering. But anyway, but keep going, Sheldon.
We have a chance to evolution 250 years later than the last one, and we have a right chance to do it at the ballot box. either in the primary, or if we can't get it done at the primary, do it at the general election this fall. It's time to overturn every person that's in that place. I don't care if they're good, bad, or indifferent. They've been there too long. They're in there as career politicians, making big money, doing nothing, really, getting paid by special interests, et cetera. I've said to you this before, if you make a ton of money having the best radio show on earth, God bless you. But if you make a ton of money sitting in Congress doing nothing, that's a huge problem. Where
Sheldon, look, I don't mean to cut you off. I'll give you all the time in the world, I promise. I wish I could agree with you on this. They're not doing nothing. If they were doing nothing, I'd say, okay, leave it alone. I'm serious. Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that. I'd still say get rid of them. But it's like how do I say this, Sheldon? They're being paid and they're in your home and you say, well, they're doing nothing. No. What they're doing is they're stealing your money. They're raping your wife. They're molesting your children. I mean, they're abusing your dog. I don't know if you have pets, but that's what they're doing to us. You know, respectfully, I wish they were just doing nothing. They're selling us down the river. They're shafting us at every turn. And, you know, just look at the debt. All of them should go just on the $40 trillion debt. They have mortgaged the futures of our children, grandchildren. You know, $40 trillion. How are we going to pay this back? To me, that alone is a political crime. That all of them are indicted. So, Sheldon, I wish they did nothing. I'm serious. I wish they did nothing. You know, we had a guy, he ran the Washington Times for a long time, okay? He was the president. His nickname was McMoron. That was his nickname. And because he was destructive. We were like, I can't believe this guy. Every decision he makes, every decision hurts the company, employees, the paper, whatever. It's every decision. It's almost like a form of genius, like the inverse of perfection. So we were saying, and he was making obscene amounts of money. We were like, if he only sat around in his office all day twiddling his thumbs, that would be such a massive improvement. It's the same thing with these members of Congress, I swear to you. If they just sat around in their comfy offices and watched CNN all day, I'd say, okay, hey, at least their hands are out of our pocket. Sheldon, they're screwing us 6 ways to Sunday. I mean, am I wrong?
Agree. The word nothing was wrong. What
No. I understand that. I'm just piling on here. But go ahead.
You produce a product. You produce a radio show. I'm a salesman. I go out and sell furniture that is produced by a factory. These guys in Congress are not producing a product. They're not producing a service. They're destroying us, as you just laid out. All of them, both sides of the aisle, need to be taught a lesson. We need a revolution at the ballot box where we overturn every one of these guys and women, put them out of office, and if the next generation coming in doesn't do the job, do it again until they get the idea that special interests and sitting there and getting filthy rich for doing all the things that you just described, we're tired of it. We're done with it. The American people, I don't care if you're left, right, center, it's wrong for these guys and women to be sitting in office just taking money and not producing a product, not saving our country, ballooning our debt, destroying our country, basically, from the inside. Somehow, some way, we need to come together and find common ground with everyone in this country and say, you know what, how bad can it be to put somebody new in there as opposed to the Lindsey Grahams and the Mitch McConnells and the Schumers and all these people that are there? They all need to go.
Sheldon, I couldn't agree more. Very well said. Very well said. Excellent call. Sheldon, thank you so much for that call. Look, and in a way, that's what we voted for, in Trump. I mean, let's put our cards on the table, as they say, right? Let's be, let's among us girls, as the French say, right? Let's be honest. That was Trump in 2016. That's why we put him there. That's why we put him again. He won in 2020, but let's just let that go. That's why we reelected him in 2024. it was a political revolution. It was kick the bums out. It was, overthrow the money changers in the temple. And they're trying to block us. And Thune now is swamp rat number one. Him and Schumer. Those are the two big swamp rats. And look, and this is the part that scares me. What happens if we keep voting for change, but they won't give us change? That's very dangerous in a constitutional republic and in a democracy. People are peacefully voting, saying we want a revolution, we want a change, and you won't let us because the elites are so corrupt. Eventually, you're going to force people to pick up weapons. I'm not advocating it. I'm just saying you're going to force people to pick up a gun. They're going to say there's no other option. If we can't peacefully change things at the ballot box, well, you're leaving us no other alternative. That's why Thune and the others have to go. They have to go. Kim in Brighton. Thanks for holding, Kim, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. Thank you for taking my call.
My pleasure, Kim.
I just wanted to say that I left a message, my second message for Senator Thune. His number is 202-224-2321. And I said that, well, I'll have to read what I wrote. I said, you present as someone who is very entitled, and I'd like to posit that we, the taxpayers, are also entitled. And then I continued on to say we're entitled to elections where only citizens vote, and the fact that only a very small minority is opposed to this makes it glaringly obvious that you must be very well paid to oppose this common sense bill. And then I ended by saying that Somalia is the world's most failed country, and even they have voter ID.
Oh, you destroyed them. Again, you destroyed them. Has anybody got, of course, I know they're not going to get back to you, but has anybody gotten back to you?
Morning, this is the second time, and it's obviously very clear way before your show today that he is being paid. And again, to your point about what's more important, the war or this, we're done. If this doesn't happen, we're done. And a lot of times I feel more than ever we are living in a movie and nothing is about the taxpayers. Our country is being overrun and taken away, and this is it. So I will continue to call and get more creative with my messages and, being polite and professional. I think what I said was professional, even though I, called him out kind of. We'll see.
You shredded him. They're not gonna reply to you because they know what you're saying is true. It's checkmate. Well, what do you say after checkmate? I lost. He doesn't want to admit that he lost. So look, what I think now, and this is going to emerge over the next couple of days, we're going to find out who's paying him. Now, I've done some initial research. Apparently, he gets a lot of money from the banks. The banks love him. He's swimming in corporate bank money. And I know that they do very well with illegals, with remittances and things. So there's something, the banks are, for whatever reason, the banks are telling him not to pass the SAVE Act. What I want to see is if, like McConnell, there's a connection to China. And see, this is what's changed, Kim, is, we used to have politicians that were beholden to special interests. True. Let me just use an example. Oil. Okay, like big oil. But okay, not that I'm defending it. You shouldn't be beholden to any special interest. But okay, but at least those were domestic industries. So you can say, well, okay, I'm beholden to the sugar industry in Louisiana or the oil industry in Texas or whatever. Okay, at least they're Americans. So you could say it's an American product, it's American jobs, American investment. But what's really changed in the last 20 to 30 years is now we're beholden to foreign powers and foreign countries, foreign interests. I don't care. Take your pick. China, Saudi Arabia, Qatar. You could just run down the whole list. Ukraine. So what I want to know is Thune taking foreign money? And how much foreign money and from whom? Because he's really, he's going really out of his way to go against the will of the American people, the entire Republican base, and the President of the United States. And I'm telling you, you don't do this for little money. You do it for big money. And my suspicion is there's a foreign power or foreign interest behind it. I'm thinking China, but I don't want to say anything until I know for fact. So you're dead on, Kim. You just keep sending him those notes. You keep leaving those voicemails because believe me, he needs to hear it. Thank you so much for that call, Kim. All right, joining me now, as she always does at this day and time, Dr. Grace, putting liberals in their place. Grace Voto, full disclosure, my wonderful wife. And yes, I married way up. Grace, I know you're a huge supporter of the SAVE Act. Like me, you want it passed. You want it passed now. Are you shocked at Thune's political maneuvering? And now at his obvious play to get the SAVE Act to be sunk. He wants it to go down in flames. According to you, why? Why is Thune so determined to stab the president, MAGA, and the country in the back? What's your theory?
Well, Jeff, thank you so much for having me on. Listen, it is very clear that the Republicans in both the Senate and Congress, many of them, have been two-faced ever since this president was elected. They are either trying to stall, do nothing, or make every excuse possible to give him as few domestic wins as possible. So I completely support what President Trump wants to do on this. And it was even last year that I said, hey, if we need to get rid of the filibuster, so be it. Literally, the fate of our country is at stake with this piece of legislation. And so I think we need to save the Constitution. I know it's ironic, but the only way to actually save the Constitution going forward is to do this right now, because if we don't have fair legitimate elections, the Democrats are going to piece by piece destroy the Constitution. So this is the most important domestic legislation that the president has on the docket. I agree with everything he's doing and saying about it. That is how urgent the matter is. And Thune is a traitor. There's no question about it. He is working in collaboration with the Rhinos to make sure that the America First agenda does not get implemented.
Grace, I want to play a cut, and I want to get your reaction. President Trump went on Truth Social. He threw down the gauntlet to Thune, and then he repeated it at a Republican members' issues conference in Florida. And here's what he told, and the cameras were there, but here's what he told Republican members of Congress. Roll cut 1, Mike.
If I could ask the people in this room to go for the gold. We're going for the gold. We're not going for the bronze. We're not going to sign a watered-down version like has been sent up there. Let's go for the gold, and let's just not accept anything else. I'll tell you what, I'm willing to just sort of say I'm not going to sign anything until this is approved. I really am. That's how bad it is. And we're going to have to push the Senate, because you have 4 or 5 senators that are, I don't know, 4 or 5 Republican senators. You'll have to explain them to me, but we're not going to get into that.
Yeah, they're traitors. I'll explain it to you in one word, traitors. But Grace, my question to you is, he said it on Truth Social. He now said it at a speech. I'm not going to sign any other bill. I don't care if you pass it. I'm going to veto it until you give me the SAVE Act. So he's now, I don't know how much more explicit he can make it to Thune. Basically it's as close to a papal bull as a president can issue. Pass this act. I don't sign anything else. Get it done. And Thune will not comply. What does Trump need to do, or is there anything he can do at this point? What say you, Grace?
And right now, he's going to give us a vote, so it's going to be voted on, right? And as far as we know at this point, it will not go through. So what the president can do now is try to negotiate feverishly with every single senator that he can, make a deal, whatever deal he can, to try to get us across that finish line. So I would say to the administration, it should be all hands on deck to get this done. And to the Democrats, think about what hypocrites they are. You know how they've been going on and on about January 6th, what a disaster, what a disaster. Well, if you want to prevent a January 6th for all time going forward, what you do is you make sure that nobody questions the results of elections. And so this would ease everybody's mind. Once you pass this, whoever wins, the public would say, okay, this is a legitimate victory. That would be good for everybody. That would be good for any Democrat who might be elected in the future. That would prevent any future protests about elections. But once again, they too are caught as being a bunch of hypocrites. They do not care to actually restore peace and confidence in our electoral system.
Is it because, and they're pretty much admitting it, because they engage in rampant, massive voter fraud, that if they didn't have mail-in ballots and if they didn't have illegals and dead people voting, they would be losing election after election? In other words, are the Democrats now basically admitting to the country and the world they're a party that depends on election corruption and rampant fraud to win?
There's no question about it. And one of the great failures of Pam Bondi so far, think about if we could have this discussion right now with lots of evidence accumulated and lots of proof about everything that we're saying and prosecutions about this. I mean, who has been held accountable for all of the election fraud that we know takes place in this country? Nobody. But let's say we had a lot of evidence about it. That would even strengthen the case and put a lot more pressure on every member of Congress to vote for this. We could shame everybody into doing this. And so this is another reason that of all the people that should go, I know we've been saying it for over a year, it's Pam Bondi. Here we would have had a very important tool, a very important piece of, proof that would really sway as many people as we possibly can. So, Jeff, listen, there's no question about it. That's the only way that Democrats win. They are out of touch on the whole with what the public wants, and they know it too. When they do an autopsy of why they lose, they frequently say, well, we've got to change who exactly it is we're talking to, because we're no longer talking to the people that we need to keep supporting us.
Grace, we've got about less than 2 minutes left, and I want to open it up just a little bit to a philosophical discussion, because this comes right into it. This plays right into it. You said to me recently at home, you know, Jeff, I'm getting demoralized. It doesn't matter who you vote for. The policies stay the same. The system stays the same. Are we facing now a political crisis, almost a crisis of democracy, that here we want something that's gotten almost 90% support, and yet the corrupt elites in Washington won't let it pass? What say you?
In the president's first term, in retrospect, we all said he should have prosecuted Hillary Clinton right away and gone after the deep state right away, because by not doing that then they were able to group together and to sabotage his first term. Well, we're seeing the second term sort of a repeat, because the deep state is obviously directing the president's foreign policy. They got Lindsey Graham in the president's ear. This is now a neoconservative globalist foreign policy. And the upshot is that it's dividing MAGA. This is a psychological deep state operation to divide MAGA. And yes, it seems that there are such entrenched, powerful forces in D.C. that unless you go after them directly and get them out, they sabotage the America First agenda. So the president understood that going in. He said, I need to clean the swamp. The thing is, if you don't get rid of the swamp swamps you. And we keep seeing that over and over again.
Grace, I have 1 minute left, literally 1 minute. John Thune, does the president now need to call for him to step down as Senate Majority Leader? Does Thune have to go?
It may come down to that. If he could just get somebody else that would do what he says, we would have a chance. So I think he's got to do whatever, basically use any nuclear option that you have to get this done. That is how important the SAVE Act is to the future of this country.
Dr. Grace putting liberals in their place. Grace Vuoto. Grace, as always, dynamite stuff, and we will talk to you next Wednesday at 9 o'clock here on the Kuhner Report. 617-266-6868 is the number. Randy in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Randy, and welcome.
Of Thune and what it would take to get him actually out. And correct me if I'm wrong on this, but as I understand it, all it takes is 5 conservatives. I'm not even going to use the word Republican because you know how that can go. 5 real conservatives to come forward, have a vote to get him thrown out, and then somebody else voted in. Is that essentially correct?
Yes. Yes. I don't want to quibble. You got it in the essentials. You're right. It takes 5 to say, I want a leadership challenge or a leadership race. And then Thune would have to then throw his hat in the ring again to get a majority to back him. So, in other words, if they want to take him out, they could take him out. And that's my suspicion is this, Randy, and you tell me if you agree or disagree. I think most Republicans are happy to go along with this in the Senate. They pretend they're for the SAVE Act. They say they're going to vote for it, but they don't care that it goes down. They really don't care because many of them pretend to be on Trump's, bandwagon, but they really want him and his agenda to fail because they don't want to drain the swamp. They want to keep it as it is because it benefits them, their power, their wealth, their control. And so they're just pretending to be Trump supporters. So they don't really want to clean up the elections. They don't really want to pass. It's not just this, many other things in his agenda. And so I suspect that that's why they're all playing along with Thune. And the other thing is, Randy, and a good friend of mine has been texting me this, and I agree. We're assuming he's being bought off, and I think he is. But he also could be getting blackmailed. The deep state, that's one of the ways they exercise their control and their power is, what the Russians call kompromat, which is they have you in compromising positions or compromising information or whatever. So who knows what they have over Thune? Who knows what they have over so many in the Senate? Republicans included. But this is what I can't wrap my mind around. This is maybe the most popular piece of legislation in the last 25 years. I don't know if you can find anything that has 85 to 88% support. Whites, blacks, Latinos, Asians, men, women, Republicans, Democrats, independents, young, old, gay, straight. I've never seen anything like this. And you won't pass it? Look, why should I vote for you? I don't mean you, Randy. I mean, to the Republicans. I'm sorry. Why? And I vote for you. Why? Either they want to commit political suicide, and Thune does not strike me as, an Iranian mullah, okay? So he doesn't strike me as a crazy jihadist, or he's completely owned, bought, paid for, or blackmailed. Randy, am I wrong?
The corruption exists on both sides, and we're starting to see more of it on the right. So what needs to happen then, based on that information, can happen today. Anybody in Washington who's listening, get the intestinal fortitude, step up, get this vote done, get somebody else in there that is going to stand up for us. Remember the Democrats, how they sat on their hands, Jeff? Remember how they sat on their hands when President Trump put the question forward, is your first job to protect Americans? They sat on their hands. Who's sitting on their hands now? It's the so-called Republicans. I want conservatives stepping up. Let them vote, and then we will see nationally who needs to put it up. Thank you for taking my call,
dead on.
Jeff.
Randy, dead on. Dead on. Where's Ted Cruz? And I like Josh Hawley. I like Josh Hawley. Where's Josh Hawley? I mean, I could run them all down. Rand Paul. Where's Rand Paul? Notice, they all have big mouths at these committees. Oh. And they all have presidential aspirations. Okay, well, where's the leadership? Where's the leadership? So you mean to tell me we can't find 5 honest senators who are willing to stand up and patriots? Let me ask you this. Okay, let's put it in a different way. It's our 250th anniversary coming up on July 4th. Let's say we can bring George Washington back, and Benjamin Franklin, and Thomas Jefferson, and Alexander Hamilton, and John Adams. We can bring back our founding fathers. The SAVE Act. What do you think they would do if they were in the Senate? What would they do? What would they do? Would they break ranks with Thune and publicly call him out and say, no, he's got to go. We want a leadership race. We want a leadership challenge right now. Or do you think they would be doing this, let's go along to get along? To me, the question answers itself. So we can't find 5 honest, courageous, brave patriots? Gino in Buffalo, New York. Thanks for holding, Gino, and welcome.
Good morning, Jeff. How you doing, my paisan?
I'm doing great. How are you, my fellow paisan?
Good. Before I get to my point, I just got to tell you, if you were ever a guest on Grace's shows, I don't think she'd ever say, I married down. So don't sell yourself short, my friend. You two are together for a reason. All right?
Thank you, Gino.
But I just have to tell people, if they realize it or not, we've been pretty much under a one-rule country since probably Obama. When Democrats win, they run roughshod over our country. When Republicans win, they stop everything we want to do in the name of some falsehood that they try to represent, whether it's minorities, transgenders, pretenderisms. They stop what we voted for Trump. We voted for change. And they constantly just stop the wheels of government from working, and people stand for it. So you either get up and vote, get out and vote, call your Congress people, tell them what you want, don't stop calling them, and push forward. Because we are under one rule party right now, you realize it or not.
Gino, let me ask you this, my fellow paisan. As a Trump voter, as a MAGA supporter, how important is the SAVE Act for you? Would you consider it your number 1 issue, your number 2 issue, your number 3 issue? I'm just curious, how would you rank it in terms of importance for you?
How we ever let voting become a thing without ID is beyond me. How that shot by us in the last 50 years is just something we could do for a month beforehand, 2 weeks afterwards, come up with decisions that pretty much are made up when they find out what they need to do to win. I mean, it's the most important thing to keep this republic going, and yet it's just crapped upon by those who don't do anything for us but spend our money.
I'm with you. Gino, I'm with you all the way. Obviously, the border, the stopping the invasion of illegals, to me that was huge, but I don't know what could possibly be more important than having honest elections. You're completely right. I mean, look, think about it. If they keep stealing elections, how much longer can this country even stay united? I mean, just for our national unity, we have to have, honest, free, legitimate elections. So if the Republicans, the leadership is not willing to fight on this, then forget it. They're useless. Then you're nothing to me. Gino, as always, thank you so much for that call. 617. I mean, am I wrong? I mean, disagree, agree, disagree? 617-266-6868. Paul in New Hampshire. Thanks for holding, Paul, and welcome.
Getting back to what Grace was saying, what you've been saying, this is the most important issue. Short of nuclear war, nothing else matters right now. And so what Trump needs to do, obviously he's got to give Thune a back door to get out of, but he needs to have lunch with him and say, look, I've got the research, I've got the information, we know who you're getting your money from. So here's what we're going to do. You end the filibuster, we get this passed, or I'm going to go on national TV, I'm going to expose who the money's coming from, if it's something we can charge you with, if it's a foreign country. They put several people in jail for that already, and let him know his life is over. And at the same time, he also has to give out Thune's office number and have as many MAGA as possible call with a nice, polite message saying, we know you're getting this money, or we know you're being blackmailed. I mean, what do they have on him? He's gay. He's got a marital affair. Who at this point, this is nothing. So I can't believe this is enough to keep him from doing the right thing. It's got to be money. But there is nothing else more important than this. And Trump is basically to say to the country, nothing is going to get passed, anything, if we don't get this. And that's it. Nuclear war with this or nothing else.
Paul, I'm just curious. Let's just say Thune succeeds. The swamp, the evil empire strikes back. And the swamp manages to bury the SAVE Act. Okay, whatever. They vote, but it doesn't pass, and it goes down, and it goes down to defeat. What happens then? What I'm saying is the political fallout from this, is this going to hurt Republicans in the midterms? Are Trump supporters, conservatives, many Republicans say, what's the point of voting? I mean, we voted him in, we gave him a majority, we told him this was the issue we want you to die on. It's got 88% freaking support. You can't get something more bipartisan than this, more popular than this, and you still won't pass it? In other words, is this going to deflate and demoralize the base and pretty much hand the midterms over to the Democrats? I'm just curious, what do you see the political implications of this being if they don't pass it?
Trump is done and probably going to be impeached and go to jail if he doesn't do it. He's got nothing to lose. If we lose this, then again, before that happens, he needs to go on national television, expose all of this, and if he has to use executive orders, we'll use executive orders for the election. But that's when he has to stress to the people, this is, if we've truly got 80 or 90% popularity on this, then we'll backdoor it. We'll use executive orders to make this happen. It'll probably be tied up in the courts, but we'll probably get the election done with the executive order of mandating that ID is shown and at least save the day for the midterms.
I love it.
If Trump doesn't do this, he's done. And he will go to jail because they're going to go after him. They're going to go after all of us. So this is a fight to the death. I'm mildly interested in Iran and getting rid of their nukes. What good is getting rid of their nukes if the left takes over? We're done. We are done. So this is the biggest issue at all.
Paul, thank you very much for that call. He's got to go scorched earth. I agree. Have him over at the White House or whatever, lunch, whatever. And, as they say, look here, Steve Miller, Susie Wiles, come here. Here's what we have. Here's who you're taking the money from, and I'm going to blow the whistle on you. Your reputation will be nothing. It'll be mud by the time I'm done with you. So I'm willing, like Samson, if I got to pull the whole temple crashing down to get this thing passed, I will. So you're not going to jerk us around anymore. So either you get this thing done, or I'm telling you, Judas John, you're finished. You are finished, and you're going to be utterly exposed and unmasked. And then maybe go executive order. I mean, what he's got to do, whatever it is his power to do, to prevent the Dems from stealing it in November. Paul, love the call. Michael in Chelmsford, thanks for holding, Michael, and welcome.
Oh, Mr. Kuhner, man.
Michael.
Thanks for taking my call.
My pleasure.
I just have to see if you can answer a question here. I'm going to set up the table here for you because the other day I went to Mass Health. I brought a friend of mine down there to Mass Health. We walk in the door. We get up to the counter. And I say hi to the lady. Hi, how are you? She says, here, fill out this form. She gives me a form. So I take the form. She gave us a number. We went and sat down. I'm looking at the form for what it is. And I'm going to give you a little hint. Has nothing to do with health insurance, or income. Do you know what the form is?
I assume maybe register to vote?
Register to vote, yep. Had it in my hand within 5 seconds of saying hi to the lady.
Incredible. So if you're an illegal alien, because we know illegals get mass health, we know that. So if you're an illegal, you get automatically registered to vote, correct?
Read the whole thing, and like halfway down in the middle of the thing, it says in three little words, if you qualify. But everything else was, send it in, put your name on it, send it in, you know.
Incredible. Michael, I'm up against the break. Can you please hang on? Now they're registering illegals through Mass Health, through Medicaid. 617-266-6868. Chris in Florida, the Freedom State. Thanks for holding, Chris, and welcome.
Well, listen, I got a couple of bones to pick. One is that there was only one caller that suggested calling Thune. You should be suggesting every single listener within earshot calls Thune, because we are Republicans. The Republican Party is our party, and thus, by default, everybody in the party is our representative, so to speak. Secondly, if people want, I'm tired, Jeff, of people like you, for instance. I'm not going to be busting your butt big time, but I'm going to be busting your butt because you've used the word republic and democracy in the same breath. They're completely opposite. We've never been a democracy. We've always been a constitutional republic. As a matter of fact, if people just go to YouTube and look up political systems 101 basic forms of government explained, they will see that Benjamin Franklin talked to a woman when he came out of Independence Hall. That was Elizabeth Powell, by the way. I'm a hobby historian, and trust me, 35 years, I know my stuff. Long story short, she asked him, "Sir, what have you given us, a republic or a monarchy?" The democracy wasn't even on the table. As a matter of fact, our founders hated democracy. I'll send you a link to a page where it's got most of the founders' quotes about democracy. They hated democracy. We've never been a democracy. So I wish you'd please quit using that. And as far as I'm concerned, everybody that says, if we don't do this, we're going to go down, we're all over, as if we're all cowards. Guess what, Jeff? And all you listeners out there, there's 42% of the homes across this country have got 80 million people living in them, and those 80 million people have 400 plus million rifles and pistols and own 5 billion bullets. Who's gonna stop us when these clowns think that they can take us over within? They will get a backlash so big they'll wish they'd never been born.
Well, Chris, look, I really appreciate your passion and your patriotism. But look, I saw Biden, just as an example, steal the election right in front of our eyes in 2020, and nothing happened. I mean, literally, nothing happened. And not only did nothing happen, Republicans, with a few exceptions, basically certified the election and considered him a legitimate president of the United States. And when I called out the election fraud and the voting irregularities and the fact that it was clearly a stolen election, many Republicans, Rhinos in particular, tried to destroy my career and take me off the air. So, to be honest, if they do steal the midterms, or if they steal 2028, and we get another 4 years of, something similar to Joe Biden, where the radical left buries this country, just crushes us, I don't think you're going to see the uprising that you're talking about, Chris. I'm not saying this to taunt you or to insult you. I'm just being honest. I think most Americans have become very, very passive. And I'll be even more honest with you. I meant what I said. I believe Donald Trump was saved by God in Butler, Pennsylvania to win the election in 2024, because I don't believe this country could survive another 4 years of the radical left. That hasn't changed. They come back to power. Say they win the midterms in 2026, and that sets them up in 2028, and they win back power in 2028. We're done. We're done. That's it. We're done. I mean, we'll still have a country, but I mean, basically our republic will be done. Now, Chris, I don't want to get, you're right. We are a republic. We were not a democracy when we were during our revolution and when we were first created, but we've become more and more of a democracy. We're still a republic. But what I mean is the franchise now is universal. That's democracy. Every person now, man, woman, above the age of 18 has the right to vote. You don't have to just be a property holder as it was for a long time after our founding. So we've incorporated more and more elements of democracy. We have a direct elected Senate. That wasn't the case. So what I'm saying is I use democracy as a shorthand because I don't want to keep using republic, but also because we have become more democratic, more of a democracy over the last 200 some years. And I agree with you. Our founding fathers hated democracy because ultimately it leads to mob rule. And that's what you're starting to see in our country. Mob rule. Democracy does not work, never turns out well in the end. Every time it's been tried, it's ultimately failed. So yeah, that's why I'm a small R Republican. I believe in a constitutional republic, checks and balances that guarantee individuals fundamental rights and freedoms. I don't care what a majority says. The majority doesn't have the right to take away the rights of a minority or of the individual.